I'm 81 years old. My name is Arthur, and I'm telling you this now because there isn't as much time left as I once assumed there would be. I wake up earlier than I need to these days, not because I'm productive, just because my body does it on its own now. The house is quiet in the mornings. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that lets your thoughts speak before you're ready to hear them. That's usually when it hits me. Not all at once, just pieces. Things I meant to say. Moments I thought I could come back to. People I assumed would always still be there. If you're younger than me, listen closely. If you're around my age, pull up a chair and sit with me for a moment. I want to tell you about the things that don't leave, the things that stay when the work is done, when the noise fades, when the phone stops ringing. It took me more than 50 years to understand what I'm about to say. And I'm not telling it to sound wise. I'm telling it because I wish, more than anything, that someone had said it to me when I still thought time was generous. I used to believe life was something you prepared for. I believed the real part came later, when things were stable, later when I felt ready, later when I had earned the right to slow down and enjoy it. I wasn't reckless. I wasn't lazy. I did what made sense at the time. I got married young, took the first steady job I could find, woke up early, came home tired, paid my bills on time. I was responsible. People trusted me. They said I was dependable. I wore that word like a badge. Dependable. I thought that was the same thing as living well. In my 30s, my days all looked the same. Alarm clock, coffee, traffic, work, dinner, television, sleep, repeat. Weekends were for errands. Sundays were for preparing to do it all again. This is just how it is right now. This is temporary. This is what you do when you're building a life. I believed that once I reached some invisible checkpoint, everything would loosen up. I'd breathe easier. I'd be more present. I'd have time. I didn't notice the cost at first. It didn't arrive like a disaster. It arrived quietly. A birthday I missed because of a deadline. A conversation I rushed because I was tired. A promise I postponed because I assumed there would be another chance. My kids learned not to wait for me at the window. My wife stopped asking me how my day was. Not because she didn't care, but because she already knew the answer. Long, busy, exhausting. We didn't fight much. That's something people get wrong. They think damage comes from anger or shouting or slammed doors. Most of the damage in my life came from silence, from being there physically, but somewhere else in my head, from nodding while thinking about tomorrow, from assuming love could survive on good intentions alone. I told myself I was doing it for them. That's the lie that makes everything feel justified. I told myself I was sacrificing, that I was carrying the weight so they wouldn't have to. And maybe there was some truth in that. But it wasn't the whole truth. The whole truth was that I was afraid. Afraid of falling behind. Afraid of not being enough. Afraid that if I slowed down, everything I had built would collapse. So I kept going. Years passed without ceremony. I didn't feel older, just busier. Time slipped by in ordinary ways, grocery lists, oil changes, staff meetings, school plays I watched through a camera because I arrived late. I told myself I'd make it up later. Later is a dangerous word. Later assumes cooperation from the future. When my father died, I was 46. He had worked his whole life, too. Hard work, not quiet pride. At his funeral, I stood next to people who spoke about him like a concept, reliable, consistent, a good man. I remember thinking, standing there, that this would probably be said about me one day, and something in my chest felt hollow, not broken, not dramatic, just empty in a way I didn't have language for yet. It still didn't stop me. That's the part people don't like to hear. Insight doesn't always change behavior. Sometimes it just sits there waiting while you keep living the same way because changing feels too complicated. In my 50s, the signs became harder to ignore. My marriage felt thinner, not gone, just stretched. Conversation stayed on the surface. We discussed schedules, not dreams. Logistics, not fears. I remember one night, sitting at the kitchen table, paperwork spread out between us. She looked at me and said, very calmly, "Do you ever feel like we're just managing a household instead of living a life?" I didn't know how to answer, so I didn't. That moment comes back to me often now, not because of what she said, because of what I didn't. We grew polite with each other, civil, efficient. We rarely argued. We also rarely laughed. People think the opposite of love is hate. It isn't. It's neglect, the slow kind, the kind that doesn't announce itself. By the time I retired, I expected relief. I expected clarity. I expected to finally arrive at the part of life I'd been preparing for all along. Instead, I felt unmoored. The structure that had once exhausted me was suddenly gone, and without it, I didn't know who I was supposed to be. I woke up with nowhere to go. The phone stopped ringing. Friends were busy, or tired, or gone. My wife and I sat in the same room more often, both unsure how to fill the space. We had built a life around movement, and now that everything was still, the gaps became obvious. She passed away 3 years after I retired. It wasn't dramatic. Illness, hospitals, waiting rooms, the kind of ending that feels unreal until it's already behind you. I held her hand at the end. I was there, fully there. I wish I could say that made up for everything. It didn't. After the funeral, the house felt enormous. Every sound echoed. Every object carried a memory I hadn't prepared for. That's when the understanding finally settled in. Not all at once, not with fireworks, just a quiet, undeniable weight. I had spent most of my life preparing for a moment that never arrived. I treated presence like a reward instead of a responsibility. I thought meaning would show up once the hard part was over. But the hard part was the life, and I kept walking past it, assuming I'd come back. There are things I can't fix now, conversations that will never happen, apologies that arrived too late, versions of myself that only existed in theory. That's the part no one warns you about. Time doesn't just pass, it closes doors behind you. You don't hear them slam. You just notice one day that they're locked. I'm not drowning in regret. That would be easier in some ways. Regret at least has intensity. This is something quieter. It's the knowledge that life was happening in small moments I dismissed as unimportant. The walk, the pause before answering a question, the chance to sit without distraction and simply be with someone. I thought those were filler scenes. They were the whole thing. Now, when I sit alone in the evenings, I don't think about promotions or money or achievements. None of that visits me anymore. I think about faces, voices, moments I rushed through. If I could go back, I wouldn't work less just to work less. I'd notice more. I'd listen without planning my response. I'd stay 5 minutes longer. I'd say the thing, even if it felt awkward. I don't say this as advice. I'm not in a position to give that. I'm saying it as a truth that arrived late and stayed. You don't get extra time for being responsible. You don't earn presents by suffering first. Life doesn't wait until you're ready. It just keeps going. And one day, you realize you've been living in preparation mode for decades. If you're listening to this and you feel busy all the time, tired all the time, distracted even in quiet moments, I recognize that feeling. I lived there. I thought it meant I was doing something right. Now I know it mostly meant I was somewhere else. What stays at the end isn't what you accumulated. It's what you paid attention to. It's who knew you were really there with them. It's whether you allowed yourself to live inside your own life instead of just managing it. I don't have many years left. That's not sadness. That's just math. But I'm here now, more than I ever was before. And if this sits with you, if it stirs something uncomfortable or familiar, you're not alone. If you feel like sharing, tell me in the comments what moments you've been postponing or what you're afraid to slow down enough to face. If this conversation meant something to you, consider subscribing to the channel, liking the video, and sharing it with someone who might need to hear it quietly, without pressure. We don't need more noise. We need more honesty. Because one day, sooner than you think, the house gets quiet. And what you did with your time is what answers back.